What's up, everyone? This is your host, Ghost, coming to you live with another wonderful video. How is everyone doing today? Doing well myself. Oh, I know, running a little late. Nothing new at this point. You know what you guys are thinking? Like, what about the Trump trial? What about the Trump trial? Well, Trump trial's over. Right now, I think it's going to be they're taking the week and finalizing instructions, and then they're going to uh, start back up Tuesday for, what's it called? You know, it was Memorial Day. Yeah, Memorial Day is this weekend. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. Hold on. Anyways. Uh. So yeah, they're taking the Memorial weekend, and then they'll be back on Tuesday. Well, where they'll do the jury instruction, closing arguments and jury instructions, and then they'll release it to the jury. And after that, we will see. Uh. The fuck happens? We'll see if Trump gets convicted. He shouldn't. In my opinion, he shouldn't be convicted. There was no evidence at all. Their only evidence connecting to any crime was Michael Cohen saying this was false. Everything else wasn't a crime. Hush money wasn't a crime. It was said several times in the trial. Hush money wasn't a crime. So I don't know what's going to go on. What's going to happen? I mean, they do have two lawyers on the jury, and those lawyers actually, follow the fucking law. You be like, we can't convict this guy because they literally have no evidence. They just have a very questionably credited history, or a very questionable character saying, yeah, this was illegal or this was false. So I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see. Let's see. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Anyways, so now we're back to normal stuff. These next or today and tomorrow, we're just going to do some reactions, and then we'll get back to some regular news topics. I got some stuff saved. I'll check them out here later and see. We'll see. See what I end up doing. But yeah, so today and tomorrow, do some easy reaction days. And yeah, so today we're gonna react to the Timcast or watch Tenet. I guess this is his new thing. Or has this always been a thing for him? I have no idea. I don't watch Timcast. Sorry. Um, Dude's obviously good at what he does. He's got so many followers, so many. So I don't know what Tenet Media. I don't know if that's a new thing he's just started up. I guess I could easily find that out. Because everything I know about Timcast is everything was behind a paywall. So I don't pay for, I don't generally give my money out for, stuff like that. Just me personal. I'm just looking to see like when so been going on for a couple months, it looks like, at least. So cool. I don't care. Maybe this is, I don't know. Because I always thought it was Tim Pool IRL, so I don't know. Anyways, with Timcast, so he had basically his topic was is trad wife life better? The nature of woman and man, and he had a couple of guests on, namely just Pearly Things, or Chen, Rachel Wilson, Isabella Moody. Um, those were the females that were on his panel. Got a little heated, I guess you could say, between Laura Chen and Pearly Things. They kind of have a history get together, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's what we'll react to. It was very popular last week, but again, I was busy doing the Trump trial, and I couldn't do a 2-hour reaction, which this will probably end up doing maybe in an hourish, a little over an hour. We will be doing 1.5C, as is my my habit when I do this type of crap. So yeah. So a little housekeeping. Follow me on X at official W Ghost. That's the best way to find out when I go live, and you can also watch me live. But regardless, wherever you're watching me from, make sure you come to Rumble, rumble.com/withghost. As the main channel. It's where all my subscribers really are from. It's Rumble. YouTube is at withghost. Twitch.tv is Twitch is official with Ghost, and then gaming channel. Rumble is Gaming with Ghost. YouTube is at official Gaming with Ghost. So those are your various options of how to watch me live, especially when I do gaming. Those are the 2 channels. I'll probably do some gaming later today, trying to decide whether I want to do some Helldivers or in light of the Assassin's Creed in light of the Assassin's Creed controversy, do Assassin's Creed Shadow instead. So we will see. We will see. All right, so let's get into it, shall we? All right, I guess I should probably have some headphones for this on. Generally help when I have some headphones. All right, let's get to it.
Children in there, we deserve our respect. And you have white knights, and they're like, we can never do anything.
So I don't know really what happened. It seems that it started right in the middle of the conversation, so I have no idea. I don't know if part of it's behind a paywall, and then they go and do a public thing. I have no idea what the Timcast stuff is all about, or especially watch tended media. So you're a little confusing. We'll just get through it and continue watching.
Anything wrong?
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's the contentious issue? Do we start with like the role of women? Lauren, your view, Pearl, your view. I know that this
Role of women in the kitchen. God damn it, barefooted. Slaves to their husbands. That's where they belong. No free will. I'm just kidding. Although they should be home because that's generally where they're happiest. I think all women will agree that they're far happier being at home, being a stay-at-home mom, and being even a stay-at-home wife, and not having to work for a boss who doesn't give 2 shits about you. I'm willing to bet most women like that.
there's a lot of conversation on X.
Sure. Well, I mean, just to get started, so I don't disagree with everything.
So this is Lord Chen. She probably to be. Chen. She currently has 568K subscribers. She is part of the Blaze. She's part of the Blaze. That's all I really got for you.
Pearl says.
I honestly had no idea who Lord Chen was, and that's not a knock on her at all, because she obviously has no idea who the fuck I am, and I'm far less important. But But yeah, I had no idea who Laura Chin was until Andrew Wilson debated her. I'm not gonna lie. She's very, very beautiful. As you can tell. She has some bad ideas and bad thoughts. Not like bad as in bad, but bad as in incorrect. And we'll get into that probably here in a bit. But yeah, that's Laura Chin's background.
But I feel like Pearl is someone who, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like you kind of enrage bait people with your posts because you'll post something really like,
Yeah, of course. That's what Pearl's doing. It's called content farming. I've kind of been doing that as well. Not with posts, but more with commenting on various things and getting into arguments and winning for the most part. I have lost some, a good amount, but I've won just as many arguments. I've seen I've seen my Twitter go up a little bit. I just started doing it, so I'm not like king at it yet. But we'll get to it. We'll get there.
super hot take on Twitter, and then like you make a video about it, and the video in turn is a lot more nuanced, a lot more, I guess, rational.
Yeah, this is a dumb point for her. Yeah, of course, Twitter, where there's unless you pay for it like I do, which everyone knocks me for. They're like every time I get into an argument with someone, you pay for Twitter, you pay for a free platform. Yeah, so I can actually I have extra space that I can actually flush out my thoughts and make it very clear. Maybe that's the incorrect way of doing things. Maybe I should be more like Pearl and just say a bunch of shit without really explaining myself and then do videos afterwards. That might actually give me some more content. But yeah, I am able to afford $8 that only broke people seem to be upset with. Like I've never seen anyone that actually has a decent amount of money complain how other people, like, I never see that. I never see people complaining about if they have money. I don't see people complaining about how other people spend their money, and it's only something broke people do. You complain about how someone else spends their money and use that as try to dig at them. It's probably just because you're broke. You can't afford $8. But I have disposable income where I can pay $8. I don't even know where I got on. I went on a tangent, and I don't even know why. It's fine. Oops.
So sometimes I feel like I'm trying to.
Oh, now I remember what I was getting at. Yeah, but yeah. Obviously, I don't think Pearl pays for Twitter. So she has a character limiter. So you can't really flesh out any nuanced ideas, and that's why you go and do long form content and actually say it. And obviously, the short form stuff on Twitter is to make it so people will be outraged, and then you'll have other people who agree a little more with your idea, regardless of how fleshed out they were, and then they defend you, and then also start following you because, hey, this person is correct, and I agree with what they have to say, so I'm going to defend their ideas, and I'm going to go and support them on their YouTube or their Rumble or whatever. So yeah, obviously it's content farming. Duh.
Struggling to see like what your actual views are versus maybe what gets the most traction.
What her actual views are, Laura, is what's on her YouTube and stuff. What is her long form content is. Those are her actual views. The stuff on Twitter is content farming and just stuff to outrage people to get them into the content. It's not that hard to understand.
On X. So I'm excited for this to have a conversation about it. But I guess the role of women in society is, to be mothers, to be wives, to support their families. How
barefooted in the kitchen, goddammit. Yee. That's where my wife is. Barefooted in the kitchen, damn it.
Exactly that looks is going to differ from people to people. That's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily associate with the trad movement. I feel like trad refers to specifically almost the glamorization and in some ways fetishization of maybe like rural
fetishization. No one fetishizes anything about and with the trad life. It's a weird word to use. It's more of a buzzword to use. But yeah, that doesn't make it fetishization for the rural lifestyle stuff. There's people don't fetishize about that. Okay.
1850s middle America, at least on like what I see on TikTok. Whereas, I'm just a mom who works part-time from home and is basically trying to do whatever I can to help support my family.
Well, I would say there's character limits on X. So, I mean, you're not going to get a full opinion with
See, this character on X. She doesn't pay for Twitter, which is fine. She doesn't have to. I don't care whether she does or not. So there's a character limit. She has an amount, very little amount saying, so she says it as quickly and as roughly as possible because that's all she can really do. And then that will lead you to her YouTube, where she gives you a well thought out linking on that, and boom, there you go. It's not that hard to understand.
Like, I don't know, was it 60 characters? But I don't know, what tweets are you talking about? And I have like 18,000, so I don't know.
60 characters? I don't know.
Well, we actually, I wanted to be specific here because I did pull some of the ones.
I do appreciate this from Laura Chen. Instead of just saying a bunch of shit and being incorrect, she's at least got her phone and she's like, all right, I want to read some specific ones to you, and you can tell me the point of it or whatever she's going into this. Let me be honest here. I did watch this. I've already watched this. I watched 2 reactions to it. I watched Andrew Wilson's and Donovan Sharp's to it. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot everything they said because I'm dumb. So yeah, and also this has been out for a bit, so you know I forgot everything they said about it. So, but I can appreciate someone actually, instead of just saying a bunch of vague shit, bringing up the actual receipts and saying, this is what you said. I want to understand what you're trying to say here.
I sent them to you. I didn't want to like ambush you or surprise you or anything like that. Let's see.
And the role of women in society, sorry, I was thinking what the second question was. Well, I think it depends, like, what do we want it to be or what is it now?
Right.
And I think right now it's like, we're not really doing much. We're not really having kids. We're not really contributing to the economy when you look at output. So it's like, what do we want it to be or what is it? Because I wouldn't say women are doing what you described now.
Okay, well, one of the things that, like I spoke recently actually with Rachel's husband, Andrew, and one of the...
And she got wrecked. Okay. I may not have remember that full video, but I do remember that Andrew wrecked her completely because he's the debate king. All shall bow to the debate king.
Tweets that I mentioned that I thought was kind of strange coming from you was that basically you said evil comes from women. Andrew, in his interpretation, he made a very rational, very nuanced. Actually, this is what she means. Is it not true that there is a lower moral bar for women? Blah blah blah. And Andrew's smart guy. It made a lot of sense. That's not what the tweet was. And kind of funnily enough, you tweeted out later to clarify, Lauren. Yeah. Yes, evil does come from women.
Yeah, well, because I would just look at every problem in society.
I think there's partially a trolling going on there, where she's like, yes, to make more specific, yes, evil comes from women. Now she's going to have a valid, I guess some sort of valid explanation for that. But I think that additional tweet was just her trolling Lauren at that point.
It all comes from women.
To be fair, I just realized this the other day, but did you know that Hitler was made by a woman? That proves it.
Well, it's like you look at the homeless. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at school shooters. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at criminals, rapists. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at what happens when women get power. So when men get power, they build societies. They do awesome things. When women get power, we're just not very good with it.
I just thought Hitler. I mean, I kind of feel like there's a lot of bad dudes,
Well, yeah, but there's also bad queens, right? If you look at queens the last 500 years, women are more likely to wage war. Women are way more violent with power, and we see that in society. Look at what women are doing in the court system today. But what is more evil than breaking up a family? And women do that all the time.
Not only breaking up a family, but then also punishing that guy for doing what he should do. And that is what he should do. And taking care and providing for his family and making it so his wife doesn't have to work if she doesn't fucking want to. But then as a guy, if you do that, like my wife divorced me, I'm fucked, all right? She doesn't work, she doesn't have to work. She has she has education and stuff, and she could work if she want to, but she prefers, and regardless of what she says, I know that's what she actually prefers because she's far more happier. But yeah, if my wife divorced me, I'm fucked because I'm gonna get screwed because there's gonna be that whole, oh well, she's been the primary caregiver of the kids. Yeah, I've been there every night though. Okay, they see me frequently enough. But anyways, they always end up screwing the guys out of half their shit. They don't get very good custody, and anything like that. I really think honestly, because we see this statistically, that single mother outcomes are far worse than single father outcomes. I think if we're really gonna end up just forcing someone to take care of the kids, initially, I think it should be the father, because then the woman, I think we should automatically give it to the father. Here's why. All right. Because I'm a dude and I'm very biased. But no, I think we should give it to the father because of this reason. All right. So, depending on how long it's been, the woman's been out of work for a general amount of time. She's going to need some time to actually get back into the workforce. It's kind of hard to do with a bunch of kids that you have to take care of and find all that. And the guy ends up already paying for it, so why not just have the guy take care of the kids initially, and then the woman's free to work hard, get her money up, and then you can gradually move to a 50-50 split, and no one pays for child support, and you just pay what you need to because you both have decent jobs. Like, that's what I think we should be doing, actually. And because there's always that argument, like with Crowder's kids. There's people arguing, and I never pointed this out, but there's because I was arguing with people, and I was just trying to argue the actual bare bones of it, but not pointing out obvious shit. But I remember people arguing because his wife was getting like $20K or something a month. I don't need $20K for fucking kids. All right, that's a ridiculous amount. But people were like, oh, well, their lifestyle's changing. They got, private schools and all that stuff. Again, they're ignoring the fact that his kids are like 1 to 2 years old. How much private schooling do they really get at that point? Not much. And all that and everything. And I was like, all right, well, that's so important. Why not just leave the kids with the father? He can take care of them while the wife works and gets to the point where she earns as much as the husband, or as close to, and then that can gradually go to 50-50. Makes perfect sense to me. But yeah, I think initially the child should go to the father. The obvious one is the fact that statistically single fathers have better outcomes than single mothers. Well, the goal, of course, isn't for them to be, single in the sense, but they should initially go to the father. He takes care of them until the mother has the ability, is able to find a job, get stabilized, be able to, get back into the workforce without having to be distracted by kids for a bit. Obviously, see them on the weekend and shit and all that stuff, or whenever she's off and able to. And then from there, you gradually move to a 50-50 system, and there's no child support on either end because everyone's just because all it ends up being is they're both taking care of the kids evenly and taking care of their needs evenly because they both have a decent job at that point. I think it's a far better system than just automatically giving it to the woman just because she's been around more. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say most problems in society come from women.
So that's interesting because
As you can tell, Pearl is a woman hater, hates women, horrible human being. She is a true misogynist.
I watched your conversation with Michael Knowles, which I thought was really interesting. And in it, you were very adamant that people need to take responsibility for their own actions. So when it relates to women, it's not really an excuse to say, oh, well, feminism brainwashed me. You still made the decision to sleep around. You still made the decision to get an abortion.
I think if you get an abortion, you're responsible.
Okay.
Right?
Shouldn't we have that same standard when it comes to the rapists, the men?
Lauren, your feminist is popping out. What about the men, though? Okay. Men are held accountable for raping. All right, let's just get that straight. They're held accountable for everything you're about to say. I guarantee it, Lauren. But what about the men, though?
You made a decision. You're responsible. It's not really like, oh, but my single mother. Like you, many people have.
The fuck? No one gives a shit that the rapist is a single mother. Like has had a single mother. He's still going to jail as long as there's evidence and shit. Like what are you talking about? What is this? What about the men, though? Yeah. What about the men, though? Okay, well, again, I mean, the rapist does get in trouble. He gets jailed. All right, I really don't understand her point here. But what about the men, though? Like that was dumb.
Responsible, they go to jail for it. But you have to look at there's significant differences between single mother and single father homes. And I can't help but notice that all of the men that seem to lack morals, they were raised by a woman.
Right, but is the answer then that evil comes from women? We are kind of leaving out the fact that a man actually left the parent or his family in that situation.
Well,
you don't really have any evidence to that. The man actually left. It could be the woman prevented the man from seeing his children. It's probably just as likely. I'm not going to knock it that there's a bunch of terrible dudes. But again, that actually goes back more on the woman than the man. Again, the man's terrible. Fuck that guy for abandoning his family and shit. But let's be honest, a lot of the issues that women have in this regard is because they pick shitty men, and they're like, I'm gonna pick this shitty guy, even though he already has what 2 other baby mamas that he doesn't see children. I'm still gonna get pregnant by this fucker. Like, let's be honest. Like, women just make shitty decisions when it comes to mate selecting. They don't select for what's good. They select what arouses them. like if fathers were more in charge, like we went back in the day, okay, back in the day, which was Wednesday, by the way, old Dane Cook joke, whether you like him or not. Well, if you went back in the day when fathers were involved in the courting process, involved in picking out their daughter's mates, you know what they didn't really go for? They didn't go for what aroused the daughter. They went for what would ensure her future. So they went with a man that, may not have been good looking, but, had at least some wealth, maybe some status, or had the ability to provide, okay, had ability to defend, things of that nature. All right. That's what a father did back in the day to ensure his daughter was taken care of. But when women decide to, mate select, they go with, dude, he's hot. He's got a motorcycle. All right. He's banged a lot of chicks. Like, that's what women do, whether they know it or not. So, again, the dude is terrible for leaving. But again, it just falls back on the woman because the woman is the gatekeeper to sex, meaning she's the gatekeeper to pregnancy. And you just picked a shitty man. And that's on you, you dumb broad. And also, again, I want to point this out that it's not, I don't have the stats, but I would be willing to bet that, good amount of the time, it's not the guy just upped and left. It was the woman's a terrible human being. He does his best that he can, and she uses the kids against him, and he finally just decides to pull Tommy Sotomayor and said, fuck them kids. Well, not generally, but that's what happens a good amount of time, I would say.
There are some situations where a woman doesn't want the man there,
most of the time men don't leave. Women are the ones that overwhelmingly leave. And if you actually do the work and interview men that are the known to be like deadbeat dads, most of the deadbeat dads don't really exist. They're exceptions. They're not the rule.
So,
and if you actually do the work and interview these guys, there's men that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting for their kids. And unfortunately, we're in a society where women can claim abuse. They could say he emotionally abused me and not see his kid for years.
Real quick, what's the stat? I know that there's stats on women initiating divorce more, but how do we say that, fatherlessness is predominantly driven by women? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because women are choosing to leave, and the number one reason is irreconcilable differences.
But that's when you're talking about single mothers who are a result of divorce. If we're looking at single mothers who were never actually married, it's not. It's a very different group of people.
But the whole point is women have all the power here. We have a million choice. You get to choose whether or not you get pregnant. Abortion's legal, so we are 100% in control of who's born. So there is zero excuse to make a kid with a guy that's not going to stick around. Zero excuse.
None.
Yeah, and that Pearl's again going back to women just make very poor mate selection. Like they'll go and fuck the dude, even though they know he's got 2 baby mamas and he doesn't see them kids. But then she'll still fuck him because God, that guy's just really hot and I really like his motorcycle. So I mean, Pearl has a point. Like, and then she's got another point. Whether you like it or not, abortion's legal. So if you're with a dude and he says, I'm outie, and you still have the kid, well, it just piles on you. That's your choice. Now, you made a good choice for keeping the kid, not killing the kid. But again, just all the way back, you banged the dude that you knew wasn't going to stick around deep down, okay? It's not that big of surprising most of the time when the dude doesn't stick around. There's some signs. You just ignored them.
Also say there's zero excuse for a guy to not stick around.
Well, but the issue you're getting is
because you're basically saying, but what about the women though? When we're talking about the man,
but the difference is men cannot.
Yeah, she tries to be clever, saying, "Oh, you're saying what about the women though?" But the thing is you pivoted and said, "What about the men though?" Like we were talking about the women, how women are at fault, and you went to, "But what about the women though?" So she went back to, Lauren went to, "But what about the men though?" And then Pearl just brought it back to, what about the women though? But the difference is women have all the power in this. Men have no power in this. Okay, we don't get to choose who's born. We don't get to choose anything really. We don't get to choose, fuck all when it comes to this.
Opt out of fatherhood. Women can opt out of motherhood.
And I think we would both agree that you should not be able to opt out of motherhood.
But
right?
we can. And it's not my point, but should, whatever. Like abortion.
It's kind of funny. It's like we both agree you shouldn't be able to. Yeah, you shouldn't be able to, but that's not the claim. The claim is what is. What is you can't. So women have all the power here.
It's legal. It's here to stay, unfortunately. I don't say this because I'm happy about it, but I mean, in the UK, they're introducing a law where they want to make it legal up to birth. So abortion is legal. And right now, men are not able to opt out of fatherhood. Only women are.
Only socially, not physically. Women in the United States overwhelmingly have the right to abort
Correct.
or are allowed to abort.
Mhm.
Men don't have any say whatsoever. But socially, I looked it up. It says, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20.2% of fathers, about 7 million, are absent dads. They don't live with their minor children. So
Right, but why?
Right. So
Right.
this doesn't literally mean that 20% of fathers are like getting up and saying, later kid, I'm going to buy scratchers
Yeah.
and disappearing. But my point was just that of this, you have men who are like, okay, you're having a kid, I'm leaving, you'll never see me again.
Well, but you don't understand the circumstances, because a lot of times women make men dads that don't want to be. They're like, this is something casual. This is, situationships are really common. They know that man will never commit to them, and yet they still make the choice to have his kid. I think in those situations, if we can legally opt out of motherhood, they should be able to legally opt out of fatherhood. We have all the power now. Don't make a kid with someone that doesn't want to be a father.
I see. You're saying
I think that applies equally to, and this is why I don't advocate for promiscuity. Don't sleep with someone that you're not prepared to have a child with.
But yeah,
It's-
again, should. But what's happening?
is what you're
That's like, this isn't a dream world. This isn't like make a wish. Society promiscuity is going to go. It's not.
But-
So I'm talking about what's happening. Go ahead.
are you saying that a woman who sleeps, like, let's say a woman, we'll start light, she sleeps with a guy, gets pregnant, and then realizes this guy will leave her, doesn't want to be a dad. You're
Yeah.
saying she should get an abortion?
I'm not saying should or shouldn't. I'm saying women have the choice to right now. Men do not have the choice to opt out of fatherhood. Should or shouldn't? It's almost like, okay, I mean, this is where I get frustrated with conservatives. It doesn't matter what I say. Women are going to abort their kids. It's not going to become illegal. So if we're in a society where we can legally not be mothers, if we don't want, why can't men legally not be
No,
fathers?
I get that.
Yeah.
The question I'm thinking of is, you're putting a lot on women as those who are responsible for single parent, like single mothers. And what I'm trying to understand, you're saying because women can choose not to be a mother.
Yeah.
You said something to this effect. And the guy can't. That means the woman has decided to have a child knowing the man will not be there.
At times, yes. At times.
So I guess my concern then is, like, let's say there's a woman who deeply loves a man,
Okay.
and she says, let's get married. He says yes. And then they do. And then she says, oh, hey, on our honeymoon I got pregnant. He goes, no way, I'm not doing this. I never want to have kids. I'm filing for a divorce immediately.
Come on, Tim. That rarely, if it ever happens. That's a dumb hypothetical. All right. That's not dumb. That's a very dumb hypothetical. Okay, marriage. Generally, if people get married, the idea, the thought of they've had the discussion of, we have kids. We're gonna have kids. They've had the kid discussion. All right. We've had the kid discussion. So either the woman knows right at the get go, when they're gonna get married at some point, but she knows this guy wants kids, this guy doesn't want kids. So at that point, it's just back to the same old problem. You went with a kid. Like, if he doesn't want to be a father, then you knew that going in, because the marriage, even with secular, it's marriage. There's an understanding with marriage comes kids. Okay, first they get married, then they have kids, blah blah, whatever that old rhyme goes. So this is a dumb hypothetical. I think Pearl points
What is
this
the
out.
option? Does she get an abortion, or does she become a single mother?
She can pick what she wants.
Right, but
But my point is-
that doesn't put the responsibility on her. It puts it on the man.
No, I still think it's on her, because we have 100% control. You can track your cycle.
So
You have plan B. You have. So again, if
Right, she married a guy she loved. She thought
Okay.
they were have a family, and then he betrays her.
okay, I've never met a chick this happened to that had like a real story with facts and evidence. I've never met one. So it's not overwhelmingly happening. That's one. And two, you generally, if a man marries a chick, he wants to have a kid with her. Generally speaking.
I do agree.
Okay, generally, if he marries her, he wants to have a kid with her, or there's the discussion at least, and there's an agreement. Hey, we're not going to have kids, or B, hey, we are going to have kids. There's at least a discussion. The woman knows going in. Okay, if this guy ends up leaving, the woman knows going in this was going to be a possibility, or this was going to happen, because they had a discussion, they had an agreement. Like, so say two people get married, they agree, hey, we're not going to have kids. I don't want kids. And they're like, yeah, I don't want kids either. And then, something happens down the line, and they're like, oh, I'm pregnant. Well, I don't want the kid. All right. So the woman knows prior that there was a discussion. She knows that if I get pregnant, this dude's not sticking around. Or there's at least that chance the dude's not sticking around. Again, it's a dumb hypothetical from Tim here.
I think
But again, shouldn't, I think that if women have the right not to be mothers, men should have the right not to be fathers. So if he should be able to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this kid's life. I want to opt out of child support for 18 years. You want to have the kid? Good luck. I don't think that's correct, like morally, but right now we can do something. We can get abortions. We can opt out of motherhood. They should be able to opt out of fatherhood.
I mean, they can.
It's funny too, is if we implemented that, there'd probably be far less people getting pregnant. There'd be far less women getting pregnant with dudes that are going to leave them. I would say that well, for two things. One, abortion would probably end up becoming fairly outlawed because women would advocate for it. And two, the single mother rate would probably drop because there's going to be more and more women that are going to be like, hey, if I get pregnant with this guy, he's not going to be around it, and he decides he doesn't want to be with his kid. I'm going to be fucked. So I need to be far more careful with who I'm selecting to, bang because of the potentiality of I'm getting pregnant. So it probably would fix a lot of issues if we implemented, if abortion's legal, then child support is optional for men. It would probably help a lot. And I don't think like how people actually think of like how good, like I think abortion or anti-abortion should be probably pushing this. All right, it will suck for a little bit. All right, you'll have a lot of issues in the beginning, but later on down the road, you're gonna see a lot of things fixed a lot better. Okay, so like if abortion's legal in your state, there is an option to have an abortion, then child support is optional for men. And you would eventually, it may take a bit, but I think it'd be fairly quick. Women would start being far more selective with who they're going to end up banging. You'd see single motherhood rate drop down. You'd probably see promiscuity drop down as well. So, I mean, probably fix a lot of things, honestly. Because here's the thing, like the women who are going to get an abortion, we're going to get an abortion regardless of what the guy did. Okay, and I think they far outweigh the number of women who aren't going to get an abortion. And so what you would see is the people that would got an abortion regardless would be cast aside basically, and then the majority of women who were not going to get an abortion, but are going to end up getting fucked over by men not having to be forced to pay child support, they'd start advocating for anti-abortion laws, and you would see this issue kind of evaporate. I think anyways, I don't know.
And opt out of fatherhood by not getting people pregnant.
Right, but
So that
Again, Lauren's feminism is showing. She thinks she just dropped the mic here. She thought she dropped the mic. She's like, well, men can opt out of fatherhood by not getting women pregnant, but who's the gatekeeper of sex? Women. Okay, the women are the gatekeeper of sex. They are the ultimate arbiter, the ultimate authority on who gets born and who doesn't. So like it's like people are gonna have sex. Okay, people are gonna have sex regardless. All right. I have my thoughts on how to prevent this, but let's be honest. But right back at you, Lauren. Women can not have to get abortions if they just kept their fucking legs closed. But this is Lauren's feminism showing. Every time we get a point that really like just nails her on women being the problem, she always goes back to what about the men do. So she's really secretly a feminist.
is very, very possible
yeah,
without abandoning the child. And that's the thing. Like the child does not have the ability to opt out of needing basic care, comforts, and things like that.
and that's true. But my point is, having unprotected sex, that's an equally irresponsible decision. We can agree, right?
Yes.
Right. So, but my point is, after that happens, the woman has the Plan B option. She's the only one that can guarantee she took the Plan B, right? Then she had the option before also to be on birth control or not be on birth control. Many women lie about that.
And also she had the control saying, hey, I'm not fucking you until you put a goddamn condom on.
And she has the option to get an abortion. Now we're going close up to birth. As long as we have those extra options, I think men should have the option to not be fathers. Do you think that's unreasonable?
Yeah, I do. And I've listened to you talk.
Yeah, because again, Lauren's a feminist. Like these conservative Christians, they don't understand this logic here. All right. I've already explained this. If you started making it so men could opt out of paying child support, all the women who are like, well, I would never get an abortion, but I'm totally for people getting an abortion if they choose to. That's their choice. You would see them rapidly turn like, wait. So if I get pregnant and the dude dips out, I'm fucked. Oh, and this law is going to happen, or it's going to be around as long as there's abortion. Oh, fuck this shit. You see a massive movement of women, because I'm willing to bet a majority of women do not go and get abortions. They're not like, it's a small minority. So we'd see the majority eclipse the minority. That's what we'd end up seeing.
talk about child support and child custody, and I agree with you that if a man is being kept from his child, it is simultaneously unfair to say you have to pay for him, but you're not allowed to visit him. I don't think that's right.
Okay.
I think you're getting the worst of both worlds there. And I do agree that custody should be 50-50 off the bat. Like that should be the presumption.
Mhm.
You shouldn't lose rights to your child just because you and the mother are divorced. But I don't think you can essentially opt out of a life that you created. When it comes to abortion, I don't think, similar with women, that you should be able to opt out of the life that you created. So
Right,
what we
but it
have
doesn't
now,
matter what you
Again, it's all you shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be able to do this. But what she doesn't understand, because I'm not that smart, honestly. When it comes, at least when she's arguing here, from what I think, she's not that smart. Not that she gives a shit what I think. Let's be honest. She doesn't give two shits what I think. All right. I'm some dude with 20, 30 subscribers, 20 on YouTube, 30 on Rumble. She's got half a million, like almost 600K. She don't give a fuck what I say. So I'll say she's not smart because she don't care what I think. She's like, she's sitting there like, bitch, I don't give a fuck what you think. But what she's thinking is she's talking about should. You shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be able to do this. What Pearl is talking about is what is and what we can change what is. Okay. All Lauren is should. Pearl is what is. What is regardless of how we feel, women are gonna get abortions, all right? Regardless of how you feel. What is women have all the fucking control, all right? What is men get screwed over when it comes to divorce, child support, and all that shit. So all she's prescribing is if we have this here is the prescription to make what is fair. Okay, that's all she's doing. And honestly, we went with Pearl's idea. Like I keep saying, I bet shit would turn around when it comes to abortion. Just saying.
we have
it matters what's happening.
Right. So
That's the point.
right now, what's happening is immorality when it comes to abortion. But I don't think the way to fix that is to also extend immorality to child support. Like this is a life you've created. You've both created. You both have responsibility to it.
Whose morals?
What do you mean?
Because
whose
it
morals?
just turns into a morality police, and that's like always what these
About
conversations.
abortion?
Correct. Well, no. I'm talking about sex outside of marriage, that sort of thing. But let's not play pretend. 3% of people are waiting till they're married. That's not really common. I mean, was anyone here virgin on their wedding night? Anyone? No. Okay. So why do we play pretend? All right. So it's like.
Well, I think
so,
this gets to the heart of it. We can sit here all day and talk about what we think ought be or not ought be, but the problem is that you're not going to fix any of this without patriarchy. When we threw patriarchy out the window, we sexually liberated.
This is Rachel Wilson. This is Andrew Wilson's wife. FYI. Andrew Wilson, again, king of debate. Rachel Wilson seems to be a fairly intelligent woman herself. She wrote a book that I really need to get. Actually, I'll probably buy it here soon. It's what is it called? It's basically the true history of women. It's like the true women history. Let's see. Okay. Okay, her book is Occult Feminism: The Secret History of Women's Liberation. It's like I got a 4.4 on Amazon. Really need to buy this book. How much is this book in? It's only $15. Oh, sweet. $0. Oh, sweet. I can get it for free. Audiobooks, baby. Probably do that here pretty soon. Actually, it'd be a good book to listen to. All right. Sorry. That's right. But yeah, this is Rachel Wilson.
Women, what we did was throw off a balance of power that was already there. Women historically have been, the gatekeepers of sex. Every one of us sitting at this table has twice as many female ancestors as we do male ancestors. So genetically, women had this great advantage. Then we have our youth, our fertile years, where we have tremendous sway, tremendous influence and power. And I think that's temporary on purpose. What happens when you give women equal political power and equal social power to men, and you remove the father as the head of the household, which all patriarchy means is rule by the father. When you throw that out, this is the mess you end up with that's impossible to fix, because what are we going to do about all of this out of wedlock births? And
my point is we have all this freedom, so take the responsibility that comes with it. So if right now we have the freedom to get an abortion, doesn't matter what we want, doesn't matter what should be. I don't agree with abortion either, but right now it's legal. So if that's what we're doing, then take the responsibility of raising the kid. That's what I say.
So do you all agree with the idea of patriarchy?
yes.
But I mean, how would you do you?
Oh, I'll put a caveat. Biblical patriarchy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I believe in patriarchy. Oh, biblical patriarchy. Okay, what the fuck does that mean?
I was gonna ask like, what's your view on the idea of patriarchy?
I don't think it'll ever happen in my lifetime. I think it's a good idea, but I wouldn't predict that would happen in my lifetime.
Sure. How would each of you, would you define patriarchy similarly? I think, Lauren, you
Right. Because I guess just blanketly patriarchy, I think that the father's role at the head of the household, it comes from God. And, it's valid insofar as he is acting on behalf of God, trying to lead his family in a godly way. Because, obviously people are going to say, like, what about this abusive husband, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, well, if he is not, conducting himself in a manner that aligns with the way Christ treats his bride, the church, then that's actually not biblical patriarchy.
I'm going to shockingly disagree with this take.
Go for it.
Which might surprise a lot of people because everybody knows I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm pretty serious about that. But you guys might not know there was a huge amount of membership in anti-suffrage groups. The anti-suffragists were far more popular than suffragists. Women did not want suffrage. Very few people know that, like, less than 4%, according to all of the referendums that they did at the time, women did not want it. And if you take a look at the arguments that women made for why they didn't want suffrage, why they didn't want women's liberation, they said, you're charging us with something we cannot do. So we cannot rule society. We cannot defend persons and property, which is supposed to be the primary role of government, to defend persons and property. If women can't do that, why give us political power? Why give us voting rights? Then we might have to get drafted. We might have to show up for jury duty, things like that. So I think to say...
And then when they did pass suffrage, they ended up giving women the right without the responsibility. What people don't really understand is the voting right wasn't really a right, it was a responsibility. And with that came certain duties. There's bucket duty, there's the draft, shit of that nature. But now we've evolved it into, well, you should have it just because you were born in America or you have American citizenship. Not really how it should be or how it ever was.
Well, we'll let the men rule as long as they're doing it in a way that we feel is Christian or things like that. It's kind of beside the point because women only have an illusion of authority right now.
Yeah, and backing this point here, Rachel's point is, Lauren's like biblical patriarchy. Well, look, like regardless of what you say biblically, okay, men rule just because we have the enforceability on our side. Okay, men can enforce whatever laws they want. Even so, let's say this hypothetical. Okay, it's hypothetical. But let's say all men decide, you know what, ladies, you're not going to vote anymore. Okay, we just don't want you to vote anymore. You make terrible decisions. All you do is vote Democrat. Those guys just, they just farm your votes to buy your votes, and then, just put the toilet down the drain. We're going to eliminate your rights. What could women actually do about it? Okay, majority of Congress are men. Okay, so if all the men in Congress decided, you know what, all the majority of government positions are held by men, and they all decide, you know what, we're going to make a new amendment, Amendment 28. Women don't have a right to vote. What could women do about it? All right, what could they actually do about it? Not a fucking thing. Okay, they have no enforceability on their side. They rely on outsourcing their enforceability of their rights to other men. And men decided, no, we're not going to really do that. It's not much women can do. So Lauren Chen's like, well, I like patriarchy, but as long as it's biblical patriarchy. Well, guess what? If the patriarchy decides not to follow the biblical thing, you don't really have a choice in the matter. All right, I would prefer biblical patriarchy, but I mean, patriarchy, all it really is men leading. Now, you can say like, all right, well, if their moral and values and all that are guided through the the idea of God and all Christian values and shit, that's a good thing. All right, but patriarchy in itself, it's a good thing, really, regardless of what denomination of religion you really are, because as long as it's a man that's good, strong, you don't have to be a Christian to be a good, strong man. If your house falls under a patriarchy, it's still good regardless.
Basically, like if it comes down to it, so men have the monopoly on force. There's no way around that. Even if you talk about, oh, well, there's women senators or there's women presidents or there's females in the military now, at the end of the day, the people who enforce any illusion of rights, women's rights or otherwise, are going to be men. Period. End of story. Nothing you can do about that. So to say, oh, women have equal rights, they have equal rights that they have to appeal to men to enforce on their behalf. So is that actually equal? So I'm just saying, like, to have this idea that, well, we'll let the men be in charge. The men are in charge. Right now, what's been happening is they've allowed women's liberation, and we can talk about who and why.
So you're saying that at any point, if like the majority of men in government were like, yeah, women, you're done. That's it.
Yes.
We wouldn't really be able to do much about it. I don't disagree, but
if tomorrow they went, we've had enough of this little experiment, hasn't gone so well. I think this women's rights stuff is over, and no more voting for you. And you're going to mostly be at home. If you have young children and you're a mother, you're going to be at home raising them. You're not going to be, trying to be a CEO. What would women do about that? Get mad, cry a little bit, yell.
Even better is, what could women do about it? Nothing. They couldn't do anything.
I mean, but
yeah. So you're saying, I mean, I feel like politically, women certainly have a lot of power. There are a lot of guys online who refer to our current Western society as gynocentrism. But I think, as you were saying, in that because men typically are the aggressive force, if they decided to, they could stop it, and women couldn't
Right.
So I guess I'm imagining a scenario where if a bunch of, say, like Republicans came out and said, no more 19th Amendment, you would have a bunch of women saying, how dare you, we won't allow this. But I suppose the argument then is the only reason that move from a Republican would be blocked is that Democrat men would
Yes.
block them.
Well,
Yeah.
that's how we got the 19th Amendment. It was actually like Gilded Age industrialist progressives, the same guys who met at the Jekyll Island Club in 1910 to draft the Federal Reserve Act, the same guys who wanted the income tax, had a vested interest in getting women out of the home and into the workforce and making them politically active.
But why is that? What was their interest?
Well, a couple of reasons. The first interest is if you're going to do an income tax, you can only tax the men's wages. Well, imagine if you can double that by getting all the women into the workforce and taxing their wages. So that's one. Two is a lot of these guys wanted this blend of socialism and capitalism that we have right now, this kind of hybrid system. And there was a lot of anti-suffrage groups that had posters, pamphlets, encyclicals. They even did debates against suffragists where they said a vote for women is a vote for socialism, because the Bolsheviks in Russia were saying we're never going to have full communism, we're never going to have true socialism unless we get women involved, give them the vote, make them workers, make them see themselves as labor units rather than mothers. So this was kind of the plan. So that's kind of how we ended up with the system we have now. So they wanted to dual income tax. They wanted women in the workforce. What's the other big benefit of that? Where do the kids go all day? If mom and dad are both at work, they have to go somewhere. Oh, we magically get the compulsory education system right along.
Yeah, the indoctrination camps. All public schools are at this point are indoctrination camps. They've always been that way. Because you'll see a lot of kids who go to school, they're like leftists, they believe in this stuff, and then they get into the real world, and they end up becoming like conservative, far more conservative. They're like, I don't think my money should really be going to these taxes. I think I should get to decide, how I spend my money and where it should go. All schools now are indoctrination camps. So all they are.
Well,
that's why you should homeschool your kids, folks.
The same time frame. So the kids are being indoctrinated with whatever values the government and the Department of Education want to bestow on them. So, and the other big obvious one is cheap wages. If you were JP Morgan or a Cornelius Vanderbilt or a Rockefeller or a Ford and you had these huge factories and you need lots of cheap labor, you can only import so many immigrants. Better idea, take the women who are going to work for a lower wage, put them in the factories, which is exactly what we saw happen. So.
I suppose with industrialization, you immediately, let me pause, go back before industrialization. Conscription became, okay, I got to slow down. Obviously, conscription's been around forever. Guys were forced to fight. Yeah. But it became substantially more viable to have a conscripted class when like breech loaders, muskets, and more easily loadable weapons became prominent.
Yeah.
It used to be back in the ancient days, you had a warrior class. Mm-hmm. Men who were born from the day they were born, every day trained to be fighters. And they said, these guys are going to be the fighters who defend this nation. And they had spears. But then all of a sudden, they were like, this is a done. You point it, you pull the trigger, it works. All of a sudden, they were like, we could take literally anybody, hand them this, and they can fight on equal. So all of a sudden, I was reading about the fall of samurai in Japan. And this warrior class had tremendous political power that was lost the moment rifles were introduced to the country. All of a sudden, they're just like, we don't need you anymore. Yeah. Your political power is gone. So I forgot exactly where I was going with that, but
probably that it's the Industrial Revolution is what allowed feminism. If you ever wondered how come women's liberation didn't happen for 2, 4, 6,000 years before this, it's because technology is the thing that makes it possible for women to feel they're equal with men. Look at this studio. Were any of these lights, this Wi-Fi, these computers, any of this designed by women?
No.
Do the women upkeep it? Do the women build it? No, the men build this technological world that makes us think,
it's so funny.
I can be a career woman. I can be in charge.
It's so funny because women will come on the show and say they don't need men on a microphone that men built in a building that men maintain.
And
men built and designed. Car, you drove in a car, man designed. Every day you walk down the street because dude, whether you know it or not.
I agree with that. And my counter, because I was talking about this, I have a segment we'll get to in a second. All of these women these feminists are online saying, we're great inventors. Actually, I was just screwing with ChatGPT because it's super woke and I'm trying to get to admit reality. And it was like, men and women are completely equal and have contributed equally to society. I'm like, I agree that's true, but tell me why. Mm-hmm. And it starts going on about great inventors. And I'm like, no, spare me this. It is strange to me that there are so many feminists that want to talk about the masculine things women have done instead of literally just being like, how about every great world leader was made by a woman? Mm-hmm. How about the fact that women are the ones who create the people in concert with men? Yes, but women, if a guy's like, I invented the light bulb, it's like, congratulations, you were created by a woman. Like, can we give women credit for being the creators of life?
No, and what's interesting is that
no, because it takes two to make a life. Like it's like women don't like. There's no immaculate conception or something like that. Where women, without a guy just gets pregnant. Boom. All right. There's no Anakin Skywalkers. There's no Jesus. All right. So like, you can be like, okay, well, it's because of women that we're alive. It's also because of dudes too. And not only that, is it also, that is, again, we go back to the single mother rates and how many degenerates we get, how much, banes on society we get from single mothers. Not all single mothers, but a good amount. And you'll see that a father is also the key component here. All right. So no, you're not just going to give a woman, credit just because she, got laid on her back and got fucked by a dude. Okay. It's not credit given. Okay. You don't give credit for that because guess what? That dude had to fuck the woman to get the chick pregnant. All right. So like, and not only that, he had to provide some sort of value before that woman even thought about fucking him or even was willing to get fucked by him. All right. So Tim, no, sorry, you got a shitty point here because it's not just, oh, you came from a woman. Guess what? You also can't. I actually didn't come from a woman. I came from a dude's sack. That's what happened.
Feminists basically have masculine values. They only judge women as successful or useful when they are conforming to masculine norms.
Yes.
That's why they love the CEO, feminine girl boss. They love those female fighters. They're only proud of women when they're behaving like men because that's where their value set comes from. They basically disregard the homemaker, anything feminine, nurturing, caring, childcare. They think of that as unimportant, which is ironically actually sexist.
So I want to pull this up. I was talking about this the other day. This is a great thread. We have Catherine Brodsky.
Oh
She
my
posted
God.
this image of this Taekwondo black belt woman doing this absolutely amazing bow staff routine. She's spinning this aluminum staff.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah, she spun a staff around. So
It looks absolutely incredible. Wow, real talent there. I sincerely mean that. Look at that.
yeah, guess what? I could pick her up, throttle her, and throw her down on the ground and probably break her fucking back. Okay, it's not that fucking amazing.
That if you run into her in the forest, I pity the man and the bear.
God, this is so delusional.
She
So
then
delusional.
responded. She then responded. The number of unfit, unskilled men claiming they can quote take her merely based on the fact that they are men. Yes, men are on average stronger, but take an unfit man in a somewhat
No.
similar weight class, and she's winning.
No.
No.
So the first thing I want to say is the caveat of an unfit man in the same weight class after saying I pity the man and the bear. So this woman, tremendous talent. I mean no disrespect, but she's 5'1", 100 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
She has her stats are available for her, like fight record and everything. There's a reason why a man who is 6'3", raw muscle, ripped to the bone with 4 black belts will not beat a grizzly bear in a fight.
Yeah,
Technique's not going to save you from a grizzly bear
right.
because physical mass matters in the conflict. Yes, there's with proper grappling technique, it's none that women could force a man into a submission. But 5 foot tall, 100-pound woman will be lifted up with one arm by probably your average guy. Okay, maybe not your average guy.
I don't even think she could take a 5'1" guy.
No, but
I
even
don't
like pound
even-
for
yeah.
pound, men are still stronger.
Right.
More bone
Yeah.
density, more muscle mass.
I mean, my husband, he's really into mixed martial arts. He does BJJ, he does boxing, and I asked him, like, we have a daughter. He's like, would you put Riley in like Taekwondo or something like that? And he was like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, like self-defense. And he's like, no, we're just gonna get her a gun. Like,
Yeah.
she's tiny, she's half Asian. Like even he recognizes, like for her, it's not gonna be useful. Unless
Yeah.
you do like the Krav Maga, like you just target the eye and the balls. Basically,
Yeah.
the most
Whatever's
useful thing
effective.
a woman can do.
I mean, I think women should learn self-defense, but I think the idea that women taking self-defense
Women should learn self-defense to defend themselves against other women. When it comes to defending themselves against a guy, they should get a fucking gun. My daughters are gonna have guns. Okay, they are gonna go learn some martial arts. All right, be cool and all that stuff, but they're gonna get some guns.
courses under the idea that they're going to beat a man in a
No,
refereed fist fight.
Yeah.
But looking at this Twitter thread, it's loaded with guys who are like, absolutely, a trained woman would beat a man, and I'm like,
No.
I think Ronda Rousey could probably take the average guy, but even that is a maybe.
Right.
There was some unfit average guy. I can't remember the exact story, but he challenged any MMA champion woman to a fight, and they all refused to do it until finally they did. Someone finally they would be like, "I'll take him. He's nothing. I'm trained." And then the last minute, like, "I'm not doing it." And then finally something happened where he did like a friendly sparring match and got put in a submission, and they hugged it out or whatever. I don't think it was real fun. The average guy is 5'8", 5'9". Actually, the scary thing is the average guy right now is 5'8", 200 pounds, which is kind of worrisome.
Chunky.
Yeah, and the same thing with average women in this country is also like 150 or something or whatever. But if you take like the average guy who's got 5'8", and let's say 5'8", 199 pounds, how is the average woman who's what, like 5'4" or 5'3"?
Well, I think there's like Hollywood movies have contributed to this
Yeah.
greatly because they've actually convinced women that, with just training, I could totally kick someone's butt.
Yeah, with Marvel, Black Widow. I can climb out of do a spinny and throw this gigantic guy on the ground. Might punch her just as effective.
And we're lucky enough that in Western society, women are so removed from actual physical conflict, including and especially with men, that we start to believe that's true. Like, thank goodness all of these women are so delusional because that means that they've actually never had to fight a man or been attacked by a man. Because if that were, heaven forbid, ever to happen, they would learn really quick that, you're not as strong as them.
Do you think that's part of why, like, Pearl and I are both kind of tomboys? I'm a firearms instructor myself. I teach women basic
Cool.
pistol and concealed carry. And I'd say more than half of my female students do not have the hand strength to load or operate an automatic pistol. They have to use a revolver, something like that. And I think when you grow up doing boy things with boys, you
Oh, you see the
understand and
difference,
respect
yeah.
that you're not a
So-
man.
Well, and playing sports, because I played basketball for 16 years. So if I go
Yeah.
do pickup, I gauge with guys because I'll play with them sometimes, but I know if he played like 1 year of high school, I'm getting beat. Even though
Yeah.
I played in
I
college.
just want to mention the speed loader wasn't invented because women had trouble loading guns, loading magazines. It's because it is substantially easier. It's annoying to try and just repeatedly, oh man,
Right.
you're going to the
You're
range
gonna
and
have a
then
revolver, you gotta have a speed loader. But
right. We go to the range and I'm like, I've got 17 rounds to load in this thing. Just give me the speed loader. I don't want to keep pressing into it. It's extra work I don't want to do. yeah, I'd imagine speed loader is going to make it much. Technology really does equal the playing field for women in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
But
Yeah.
even a man with a gun versus a woman with a gun, 9 times out of 10, the man's going to be better. Like people don't think that that's the case, but like when I took my testing to get certified, there was only one other woman with me. She actually brought her husband and had him like loading her magazines and stuff. I was like, it's cheating. I should have did everything myself.
Well, and men even have better hand-eye coordination
Yeah.
when it comes to aim. I absolutely demolish my husband when it comes to stuff like that, but that's like very
Is a woman doesn't respect her husband. Why would you try and even attempt to say that? And I don't believe you for a second that you demolish your husband in anything. Oh yeah, I demolished my husband, a BBJ Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dude. I demolish him in hand-eye coordination. Oh, okay, sure you do.
very rare. Usually, it's like on average, it would if you the best sharpshooters or whatever in the military, they are men.
Yeah.
And I know like that's one of the things where there was this whole debate about should women be in the military, should they serve in combat
No.
roles? I don't think so,
No.
but people are like, well,
God,
they can
no.
still fire guns as well and stuff like that. It's like actually no, actually, yeah.
Well, and just
Well,
because
And loading, shooting guns is only a small portion of it. All right, it's a very small portion of it. And not there, there's a bunch carrying of heavy rucksack that's weighs more than you, and all that stuff. There's all these other factors that go involved. Let alone the fact that hey, if a dude goes down, guess what? You're gonna have to try and drag his ass back into a safe area so a medic could take care of him. Most women aren't gonna be able to do that, if any.
some women can do some things doesn't mean that all women ought to do those
Oh,
things.
It's the exception,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then it just proves that women need men. And back
This
to
here is Isabella Moody. She didn't really say much this thing. She was kind of quiet.
this post, like all the men commenting, it's like, okay, well, who's really to blame for feminism if men, these simps, like allowed women to have this power? And how do we actually combat feminism today? Because like you said,
Yeah.
women are controlling the emotions and they're the ones driving this hysteria and making the men vote this way and enforce these things. So really it's up to the men. And I saw your husband talk about how men need to create like men's rights advocacy
They've
groups in
had them.
Washington.
They've had them
Yeah.
for over 100+ years. The first men's rights advocacy group was in the early 1900s. The reason that it's so ineffective is because women are the biggest swing voters.
Yeah.
And so like that's why I would say women are more responsible for feminism because most men do not have political power other than one vote. And even if they do vote, women will always outvote men because there's more women than men.
I do think though that part of the reason that women, I would say that men they need to have higher standards when it comes to women. I do think that if women, like the reason why so many girls are on OnlyFans or are whores are because men still sleep with them. They're paying the OnlyFans subscriptions. I know it's easy, like this is not what's happening. This is what they ought to do. But if we ever want to change the culture, we have to start somewhere. And I do think that if more men's advocacy groups arised and more men were like, I'm not going to give women and feminists the time of day. If they're pro-voting, if they're feminists, like make it so unfavorable, bring back shaming to such a high degree, as rabid as the feminists were, where they
So-
took over everything.
So I disagree with you. I think women want to be on OnlyFans because they enjoy being whores. So I've interviewed so many sex workers. They just like it. They get off on being naked in front of men. I don't think it's this like the men are giving that. Like I
But
think
the men are there to be in front of.
yeah, but they're also there to be
And what about the men though?
in front of when they walk outside. And I see this when I go to Vegas. Women just get naked on the street. Like you see them, they have like stickers over women. I've never seen women fight harder than for anything than the ability to be naked and the ability to be whores.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's absolutely
But-
appalling. But I think men should have the discipline. And I know it's tough because I'm not trying to blame it all on men. But at the end of the
No, you're blaming it all on men. How about women just have the discipline? Because guess what? Women are valued by their virtue, their conservativeness, and all that stuff. Women, that's what women are valued for by men. So how about women just control themselves? Because all that ends up happening when you sexualize yourself is you just get looked down on by men, and you lose prospects on good men. So it's far worse than for women to do this than it is for men to take it, I guess, or to accept it. I think that's the word I'm looking for. To consume it. All right, it's far worse for women to for women to provide it than it is for men to consume it. All right, the effects, are there some effects? But yeah, but they're long. It takes a while. All right, if you're a porn addict, you'll have some issues if you do it long enough. But the second you start sexualizing yourself on the internet, especially, that's all you're really thought of when you're a woman. That's all you thought of.
day, it's like sales. It's like if there's no supply, there's no supply.
But I'm
there's no
saying
demand.
even if there was no OnlyFans market, like women would still figure out. There's been escorts, prostitutes, and so that's like the world's oldest profession. That's always going to happen.
Well, I think
but back to the whose fault is it? I think it's women. I think we're always bringing the blame back to men, but most women vote just because women have the opportunity to their husbands. They didn't have to pick it. I think we're ultimately responsible for all of society. Most men have very little to no political power other than one vote.
Isn't it then fair to say it's actually men's fault for allowing women to do these things in the first
Well, I
place?
think
Okay, so
that was the point I was
wait. I
making.
want to actually break that down. So, okay, you go get married. Let's just say tomorrow you find your chick, you get married. And then she says, I want to leave you. And I want to take half your business and your stuff. What do you do? No, don't do it. Well, no, I really want to. No, please don't. Let me go
Well,
leave.
but my point was pre-women's suffrage. it was men, it's patriarchy,
Mhm.
and then the men go, I had an idea, let's divide power
Fine.
amongst women.
Yeah.
Couldn't you then blame men
Well,
for being weak?
fine, maybe 100 years ago,
Failure
sure.
of
But I'm saying any person born today or in the last 50, most men didn't have anything to do with that. Like you weren't alive, I
Right,
wasn't
sure, yeah.
alive. So yeah, sure, a few men you could say are responsible, but by and large, far more women have opted for this stuff. Far more women have gotten abortions. Far more women have gotten an OnlyFans.
Only women have gotten abortions.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because,
yeah.
like you said earlier, when women get power, they're terrible. They don't know
Terrible
what to
with
do
it.
because they have higher rates of mental illness. They're just way more abusive. They are power hungry.
Mm.
So because men allowed those men
Yeah.
allow them to have the power, and now women have the power, and look how terrible society is with sexual revolution. And now it is because of women today and them having power. And it sucks because we can't go back in time. But
Right.
what can we do now?
Right, but that's my point. If we're gonna go like back, if we're gonna make the argument whose fault is it, far more women are at fault than men because a very small percentage of men had anything to do with this.
But I kind of feel like the generations just have different problems.
Okay.
And if you go back to the stark patriarchy, there's war, the bloodiest war, Civil War, World War II. There's bad things that existed under patriarchy as well. And so if you look at society today and you say, you know, degeneracy and these things that came from the sexual revolution, these are bad things. But does it mean that it like was there ever a utopian society? I mean, how do we weigh
No.
the problems today against the problems of yesterday? There were always problems we're trying to fix.
And
But
also-
I think the problems of the past were more due to like lack of certain technology we have that improves things. So we often conflate the effects of like the industrial and technological revolutions with the social revolutions, which feminism is by far the biggest and most significant social revolution of all time. It was not an organic grassroots movement. It was totally astroturfed. It was completely engineered. It was societal engineering. But I think this is my hot take is that we're not going to fix this. We're not going to culturally go back. There's no going back. But what is going to happen is this is completely unsustainable. This situation, totally unsustainable. And here's why. Birth rates in South Korea right now are 0.78. In the United States, in the entire Western world, in fact, in the whole world except a handful of countries, it's well below replacement.
I disagree. I agree with everything you just said, except for there's no going back. I think what you described is going back. So when you look at the birth rates, yes, in the United States it's below replacement, but look at the conservative birth rate. It's not above replacement. It's not, but it's higher.
Yeah.
Which means that there's this dip happening predominantly among liberal groups
Yes.
and feminist groups,
Yes.
and it's much lighter against conservative groups.
Yeah. So what Tim is saying is basically the same argument Andrew Wilson makes is that we're just gonna end up like the conservatives are just gonna end up eventually, all right, outnumbering. I know that's the correct word, but it sounds wrong to my ear. But we're gonna end up defeating the liberals because we're having the kids. We're putting the values down on the kids that they're going to strive for and eventually make the policies of. That's what Tim's really getting at. The problem is we're also sending our kids to indoctrination camps, which is public school.
Which means over a long enough time scale, conservatives rebound, liberals.
That's exactly what's going to happen. But I don't think it'll be going
Yeah.
back. It'll be a rebirth. and it'll look different.
right.
And it's
And
because-
I also disagree that that's really going to happen because you can't make your kid be conservative. And I've seen kids and maybe this is anecdotal, but I've seen kids with very conservative parents come out very liberal.
Right,
It is
they'll send their
anecdotal.
children
I
to
mean,
college.
Yeah, they've actually done studies. If the greatest single predictor of what your political ideology is going to be is the ideology of your parents, there's actually
No,
there's-
that's
there's-
before the age. That's before the age of 25. After 25,
There
the
is-
number one is your husband's.
there
It's your
is
spouse.
there is a genetic component to
Mhm.
political beliefs.
Yeah.
People are uncovering more and more. But if you homeschool your kids, you definitely don't send them to public. There is a good chance that yes, your child will be conservative. And if they get married, then that's
There's-
Wait,
there's a-
Pearl,
go on.
you are correct, and I think you're going to agree with me. You said that you don't think it's going to go back because you can't guarantee your kid is conservative, but after 25, the husband is the biggest predictor. So-
Husband's number one. Second is
So-
where you live. Third is
Right.
parents. Yeah.
So let me bring up this image right here. This is just a
Mhm.
couple of the data points that we've seen from various countries. Men skewing conservative, women
Yes.
skewing liberal.
Yep.
So Pearl, what happens
So-
at 35?
Okay. So, but women aren't going to get married.
Right.
Wait. I want to, and women still have the most political power.
So-
Go ahead.
Right? Do you believe that all women hold these views? I would argue that many of them are just following social trends.
I think that. Do I think all women are liberal? No. I think some are. Yeah.
I mean, of liberal women, do you think all of them inherently do believe this? I believe that when you look at the data from Instagram and TikTok, where women are like young girls about Tourette's from watching videos of Tourette's, they're very
Right.
socially
everyone's
influenced.
autistic now.
So
Yes.
I think here's my prediction.
Yeah.
When you look at men skewing conservative, and it's happening now, Gen Z, predominantly among men, very much moving towards Trump. It's
Yeah.
this weird phenomenon we've not seen. Gen Z is considered to be the most conservative generation in 100 years, not because they're conservative, they're not,
Right.
but because it's the first time we've tracked slight conservative ticks. So typically, of the past 4 or 5 generations, the next generation is always slightly more progressive. Gen Z is the first time we've seen it sort of balance out
Right.
and then move a little bit to the right in one area. So they're very similar to millennials, but whoa, it wasn't a dramatic shift. Here's my prediction. Men don't have a biological clock.
Right.
Men are skewing conservative.
Mhm.
Men are going to be 35 and they're going to meet a 35-year-old woman on a dating app. And the woman's going to be sitting there going, I'm a progressive. And he's going to say, ma'am, I have all the time in the world. Have a nice day. I won't have kids with
Exactly.
someone who's going to divorce me.
Yes.
This is going to do 2 things. The women who are only following social cues will immediately be like, I never actually cared about that. I want a family.
Right.
And the women who do really believe it won't have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I know,
that's
I
what
would
I was
not-
trying to say earlier is this is a self.
Yeah, I think Tim and Rachel here, I think they're actually correct. I think eventually it's going to shift. because we're eventually just gonna market the market basically. Like Tim's got a point. Guys is moving conservative, and then men are moving conservative. They're gonna marry younger women that are going to follow their lead, and eventually, more and more is gonna happen. And Pearl just brought up an anecdote. I know, someone who blah blah. Yeah, but let's be honest. Like, my parents are. My dad's more conservative. My mom's more liberal. They're divorced now, but I followed more of my dad's trend. And I also think another portion of this is when you get into the real world and you start actually dealing with real world stuff, you end up realizing all that liberal crap is just garbage, anyways. Sure, there are plenty of people, but when you start actually making a decent living, you realize that this liberal crap's kind of garbage. It's kind of pointless. So I think that's another thing as well.
Correcting problem, meaning we're not going to have to go in and like rebuild the patriarchy. This is the patriarchy going, wait a minute, this was really bad. This was a bad deal. The sexual revolution was a really bad deal for men. Men are figuring this out now. And exactly what you said is true. Men can wait. They don't have to start a family before 30. And by the way, women aren't having children until they're 30, 31 years old now, which is why the birth rate is so low. It's not because people are having no kids. It's because we're telling all the women to spend their fertile years in college, going into debt and building a career. And we think they're going to flip a switch at 30 and just start popping out babies. They have one, maybe two, because it doesn't make sense to have all that debt and invest your whole 20s in your career and then suddenly stay.
This is what
the men aren't gonna keep going.
Yeah, this is what I would predict in terms of outcomes. Young women have no evidence that they care what men want. When you poll them, they say that they care about men, like they care about traveling more, they care about other things more than men. If I had to predict what the future will be, I would say single parenthood. And I would say that IVF is going to, and women are just going to have kids older and older. It's actually going to get to the point where they don't need a man. They can just get a sperm donor.
That's true, but I don't believe it will outweigh. I don't think the numbers can ever reach that point, especially.
I mean, that makes sense. I'm sure that's going to happen, but it's going to end up being like, more. I don't think that's, the doomsday that Pearl's talking about is a viable thing. Eventually, there'll be, good enough IVF that they can, just get a sperm donor, but IVF is expensive. And I think it's always going to be expensive. And it doesn't always work. So, I mean, could we make some technological advances? Sure, we could do that. But I still think we're going to end up outpacing the women at some point, or outpacing the liberals at some point.
Single parenthood will not be nearly as successful, as you pointed out, with crime and homelessness. These men that are becoming more conservative are going to make demands. And everything you pointed out about divorce, it's a really great point. A guy says, no fault divorce, you could just take everything away, and what's the point of getting married? Yeah. So that means you're going to get more and more guys who are shifting conservative, going on dates when they're 30, and they're going to say, you were really sweet, I really enjoy your time, but I will not date a woman who believes in no fault divorce and abortion. And this means that those women will have to go toward the IVF. They won't have kids. If they don't have kids, then their line ceases.
But they will adapt to the views of their husband. But it doesn't. Right. We looked at the results of the 2020 election. Married women voted Republican on average. And this is something that is not that uncommon. White women also voted Republican. Right. Guess what? Majority, of all the social demographic groups, white women most likely to be married. Married women are conservative because men are conservative. And I believe, we've talked about service, guaranteed citizenship. What is the ideal electoral system? I think, vote per household led by the husband would be one good thing. But I think my husband firmly believes that if a man is strong and leads, women will follow. And I think that is also true in relationships. He has friends who are very, very right wing in Quebec, very liberal area. They do not have they are young, they're in shape, they have good jobs. They do not have problem, even the super libby area, finding women to date, because it's true. When you present yourself as a strong masculine man, you have these opinions, women follow.
But it doesn't matter what women say; it matters what they do. And if I had to predict in the next 5 years, again, that the system is still the same, women can still recommend in family court. So why would it be any different the next generation? I mean, you can say what you want in the dating phase, and there's many women that do. I interview the husbands on the other side. They say one thing and they do another 5 to 7 years in family court.
Pearl has a point here. Exactly. It's not what women say, it's what they do. I think eventually we'll see some sort of revolution in the family market. More men are getting outraged, and they're going to end up just not, they'll won't marry them. They'll have kids with them. Oh shit! Sorry. Shit. What was I going to say? Fuck. I lost my train of thought. But I think what we're talking. Okay, I think they're talking past each other at this point. What Tim, Lauren, Isabella, and I think even Rachel, they're talking about is far into the future. Pearl's looking in the 5 to 10 year range. All right, 5 to 10 years. This isn't really going to change. Things aren't going to probably change much. They may even get worse. But far enough into maybe 20, 30 years or so, I think we'll start seeing a change. I think Pearl's right. She's probably not going to see it in her lifetime. But I think eventually, in our children's timeline or our children's children timeline, that we'll see a change.
Saying
So
Divorce rates are actually going
math.
down.
So the only reason it's going down is because COVID set the numbers off.
But look-
That's one, and the average time before marriage is going up.
And nobody's getting married.
And also, yeah, I was gonna say that no one's getting married. Also,
And no one's getting married.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but no one getting
No-
married
none of-
wouldn't affect the divorce rates.
Law, morals, none of it matters in the mathematical argument.
Mhm.
If it is true that even if like there's still going to be high rates of divorce, the fact that men are becoming more conservative, this is going to apply a pressure that over a long period of time there will be attrition away from divorce and abortion and all these things. They'll still exist. They'll still exist for a while, but over a long enough period of time, if the math is trending this direction, even if it's 0.1%, this is why casinos make money.
Yeah.
Most of these games are 49. If the casino has a 50.5% chance to win to your 49.5, they don't care if they lose $1,000 because over the long enough period of time, they make money no matter what.
yeah. I just think that's selling dreams. Okay, guess. 10 years from now, are there going to be more single mothers or less single mothers? Guess. More or less.
In 10 years
Okay,
more.
okay. In
I
10
think
years, in 10
this
years
is
time,
a-
I want to go
It's not
through
going to
these.
happen, like you said, in our lifetime.
Correct.
It's not
That's
going
the-
to be corrected that quickly. But this I think will accelerate because men are realizing they don't have to play these games and they
Mhm.
don't have to participate in the system. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have, and Lauren talked with my husband about this, is the fact that throughout all of human history, marriage used to be a contract between two families.
Mm.
It had sacramental and religious and spiritual significance. It's a contract through the state. It's a license you get at your
Right.
county. That's 100 years old. This is a very new idea. It failed miserably. We shouldn't be surprised that everyone's getting divorced because who cares about your silly contract? It's like a roommate agreement. It's easier to get out of than a cell phone contract.
It's easier.
meaningless.
It is easier to get out of a marriage than it is to get out of a lease.
It
Yeah.
is.
How
It really
insane.
is.
For women.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I think another thing you're going to see, another trend we're going to see, because men are going back to religion as well at a higher rate than women. Like serious traditional churches are seeing a huge influx. Like the Orthodox Church, I think 80% of our new converts are like young men.
That's great.
Women are going to like Wicca and astrology and all this garbage nonsense.
Crystals.
But men are going back to like the traditional churches. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to say, I will marry you through my church. We will have an ecclesiastical marriage where our church and our community kind of govern the terms
Right.
and enforce the contract rather than just going through the
Yeah,
state.
I just wouldn't predict it because even if you do that, you can't out religion the state. At the end of the day, the state is still the enforcement arm. And if you have children in this country, they're not yours.
The state doesn't matter. All that matters is cultural enforcement.
I think Tim kind of overlooked what Pearl just said there. She's actually absolutely correct. Like even regardless of what happens, religion's good, everything, but regardless, if state marriage is the same as it's always been, there's not much going to be changing in marriage because even if you're a religious person, you marry a woman through the church, not through the state, no matter what happens, there's common law marriage laws where if you live with someone for enough years, you'll end up, you're married in the state's view. Again, with the state, involved, if you get married and even through a church, and you have kids, the state's the ones that decides who the kids go to and stuff, not your church. So, but I think Pearl's also ignoring the shame aspect from a community. If a woman's actually religious, not one of these religious hoes, who they've sucked up 100 dicks and then they're like, you know what, I want to go and be saved and I'm going to go to Christ. What they're not going to realize is the shame that comes with that community. And what's gonna end up happening is these women that'll do this, that'll go and do a marriage through religious, through the church, and then they go and they have kids and then they leave their husband because of, oh, he's not nice to me or he didn't talk to me nice or whatever the fuck the reason is, and takes the kids. What she's going to end up then facing is ostracization, meaning she's going to be ostracized from her community. And women are social creatures. And if you ostracize them, you put them alone, they regret, it hits harder than them. Men, we can, if we're like it can suck, but men, I think, handle loneliness far better than women. Meaning like being away from like a group, like they don't need that, they move forward at their own pace. They don't take social pressure as hard as women. And I think that's what Pearl's missing is that group dynamic where, all right, cool, you do all this stuff, and then your group, all your friends, all your fam, well, not really, maybe your family, but your friends at the very least, well, depending on your family, but your friends, your social group, everyone's going to end up just shunning you. You're going to be shunned away, and there's not much you can really do about it. And that's going to hit women a lot harder than it hits men.
And that's why.
No, it
it's-
does
you know,
matter.
That's
It
why
does
it's like
matter.
in,
That's-
in Boston, for instance, it's illegal to put a pie on your windowsill on Sunday, but everybody does. There are a bunch of blue laws that exist in the book that are never enforced.
Right.
It's because people fear more social than they do legal.
Mhm.
For instance, why are criminals still going around raping and murdering and shooting despite the death
Mhm.
penalty? They don't care. But why is that cancel culture dramatically shifted major parts of our market for the past 10 years, only up until now? Why did Target abandon, in many locations, the Pride section? Cultural enforcement is stronger. When you have people who grow up in a rural community going to church, and that there's a man and a woman, and they think to themselves, if we get divorced, it is going to cause major cultural problems for us at church, at community, in our bake sales, in the fire department. We can't live with that. We have to deal with it. The pressure is on them. If you're in a big city, perhaps yes,
Mhm.
but cultural enforcement dictates how people behave. If they could pass a law, and as long as there were cops in Seattle. Antifa was threatening a guy. The guy's backing up. And he's like pointing at him as he backs away. Cops jump out of their car, arrest the victim. Why? Because the social order in Seattle and Portland is we do not take action against the far left mobs. So the cops' mentality is if I go after the protesters, I'm gonna get into a fight, people are gonna get mad at me, and then I'll be on the news as attacking peaceful protesters. Just arrest the victim and it all stops.
But there is no cultural enforcement that shames women for doing that. I can even look at conservatives. I mean, I have a list here of all the conservatives that are divorced. It's not, I mean, look at how we handled the Crowder situation. Look at Lauren Southern. She just got an article written about her poor divorce story. There's no shame, even from conservatives, for divorce.
I think the
I,
movement.
I think Pearl has a good point. Eventually, you're going to see a lot of these conservatives starting to actually start having a fucking backbone, hopefully, where they're going to start shaming these women for their poor decisions. They're going to talk about Crowder. Everyone knows about Crowder. His wife divorced him, and everyone was on her side, not his, pretty much. Like, majority of people were on his side, even the fucking trad wives and the conservatives. They were all on her side. And But yeah, it's going to take a shift in the conservative movement to actually start bringing shame to these women, saying, "Hey, you're a bad person. How dare you? How dare you leave your husband? Shame on you."
For like abolishing no fault divorce, though, I think it is gaining traction. I'm hearing about it more and more, and it's partly due to people like you, but I think there are more and more conservatives who weren't really thinking about this. It's not like they supported it, but that it just wasn't on their radar. And I think it's starting to become part of the conversation where, hey, maybe we should talk about this in a way that 10 years ago it wasn't even being mentioned. So I'm actually somewhat hopeful that maybe in the future we could do something about that. I think that is a meaningful change that we could make that would, again, I'm not advocating for state marriage, but for those of people who do care about government marriage but are concerned about that, I think that actually is something we could change.
Yeah, I think it sounds. I hate to be a pessimist. I just don't see any evidence that's happening. That's like we could say we want that to happen, but it's not like a wish list.
I have a question. What is the number one podcast among women?
Probably some murder one.
Probably call her Daddy.
Yeah,
That's got to be because
I
they
think
were
that's
close. They were close to Joe Rogan.
And what do they talk about on that show?
Sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
How to
like,
give proper blowjobs.
yeah.
It's kind of wild
And
because
she just got married. That's a crazy thing.
I was thinking about this because it is largely true crime. Women listen to a lot
Yeah,
of
I
murder
love true
mysteries.
crime.
But I think was it Call Her Daddy?
Yeah.
And it's like kind of vapid, degenerate sex talk. And what do guys listen to? No question, it's Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
And what does Joe Rogan talk about?
Protein, MMA. My husband
I mean,
loves
really?
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and cultural news and political news.
Yeah.
And so I bring that up because I'm willing to bet the majority of people listening to the show right now are dudes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because on on YouTube, my audience is probably for my political channel around 80% male. And I was excited when I started my pop culture entertainment channel. I was like, finally, I can have more girl audiences because we're just talking about movies. No, 95. So I don't know. I guess I'm not talking about the right movies.
Yeah.
Or the right activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a question with the Crowder case. I told you I was going to.
Oh shit! Here it comes, getting down. I think we'll finish up here, and I think this is going to end up being a part 2, honestly. 'Cause I didn't realize I was going to stop and have so much information I was going to give. So I think tomorrow, instead of a regular reaction I was going to do, I'm just going to do part 2 of this. Yeah.
To bring this up. Why, you said on stream there's some information behind the scenes, but if you're willing to say, this vague stuff, like what is it?
So officially my stance is, aside from what I've already said, Crowder and I currently work for, and he used to work for Blaze TV. We do actually have, some NDAs and non-disparagements, so I will not be commenting further.
I don't believe this for a second. Laura, I think you're fucking lying here. I think you've realized you fucked up. All right. You were on the wrong side of your so-called I'm a trad woman, trad wife type shit, and you're complete bullshitting here. I don't think you actually do have an NDA. And here's why. Well, I'll show you why. But Turtle has a point. Is you said all this stuff. Oh, I have some secret information, and now you're all of a sudden you're going to hide behind an NDA. I don't believe this for a second, and I'll point this out here in a second because something's going to pop up here, and I'll go more into it.
And I know that's frustrating, but that's why I'm not.
But then why did you make
I'm on Crowder's side.
Yeah, but why did you make 5 videos on it if you're going to say now I can't comment?
Oh, I can't comment on what is not publicly available.
Okay.
I can talk about what publicly is out there.
Okay. So publicly, Hillary and on video.
Also, she was able to say this before, but now she's with was she with Blaze prior to the Crowder's away from Blaze? the NDA doesn't make any sense because was Crowder still with Blaze TV when he got divorced? Hold on. God, I have no idea. I don't remember, but even if he was, then now he's no longer. I don't see any non-disparagement of former employee. I don't think that would be a thing of non-disparagement for. So I don't believe you, Lauren. I don't think for a fact that you actually do have an NDA. I think you realize that your whole trad wife stance, what's really showing is what really is you're actually a feminist because every time they harp on women, you always go, but what about the men though? Um, and you think it seems to me you think men are equally as responsible than to the problem with society as women. It's not true at all. But what was I going to say? I was saying something there. But yeah, I don't believe she actually has an NDA. I think she's fucking lying through her teeth. I think she realized, well, my whole niche now is the trad wife thing, and I was going against Crowder when all of a sudden I was, when it was easy to. Now that it's kind of showing that the bitch is kind of fucking crazy and a fucking liar. Now it's like, oh well, I don't know now. So now I'm gonna hide behind an NDA, but I can't think of an NDA that says you can't disparage former employees. I guess I don't know. Hold on. Let's see. So see, it was last. It was so. Okay, so she joined in 2018. Crowder left around 20. Wait, when did Crowder leave? So he left in 2022. So she was part of Blaze TV when she, started making all these other comments about it. Now she has some secret information. Now she's like, "Oh, I'm behind an NDA." I don't believe you.
Theo said he wasn't abusive. Why was that not reported on?
About him not being
Yeah,
abusive.
it was on video.
I mean,
And so,
I
'cause you
had
had-
problems with
You
the
had
way that
something where you alluded.
You like how she just dodged that? So she just said, "All right, I can't comment on anything that's not public." Okay, there's I can't comment on anything that's not public. I'm behind an NDA. Blah blah blah. Now Pearl just said, "Okay, but what about the video where Hillary said on video? Apparently, I don't know. I don't follow this that closely. That Crowder was not abusive. She apparently said it publicly, like maybe in court or something. And you didn't cover that. Why didn't you cover that?" And then she's like, "Oh shit, what the fuck did she say?" Okay.
Video.
I mean,
And so,
I
'cause you
had
had-
problems with
you
the
had
way
some-
that
See, so she's like, I mean, I have problems with, and she's going back to Crowder, but she doesn't address the actual question. And I wish Pearl actually, I don't think she harped on her enough for this, but I wish Pearl did. Is like, but okay, you say you can't comment publicly about it, but why haven't you commented about Crowder's own wife saying no, he's not abusive, and anything like that? Whatever the fuck she says. Hold on, let me see. Check out her channel. Let's see. Since then, since this, which was 5 days ago, has Laura Chen made any comment? Okay, lives. Say click lives. Let's see. Nope. That was 2 weeks ago. This was 7 days ago. Okay. 9 days ago. 12. Yeah, nothing. Nothing. She hasn't said anything about it. I don't know. Maybe she posts more on Blaze than she does. Here, let me check out her Rumble. Jesus Christ. All right. Hold on. I'm just saying. I want to see. Okay. Laura Chen. Yeah, she doesn't post that much on Rumble apparently. So you haven't said shit about it yet.
Thing where you alluded in your video on him that he was abusive after you played the clip of him talking to his wife. So my question is, if you're going to report on that, why did you not report on the video of her saying he wasn't?
He wasn't abusive. Which video you're talking about?
It
It
was
was the one
him.
that I recently did with Jared.
It was not the one where you did with Jared. I'm saying there was video of Hillary Crowder saying that Stephen was not abusive, and all of the conservatives were super willing to throw him under the bus the last year, make a ton of money off of it, except for Tim. Except for Tim. You were the only one who I thought was fair. I really did. I have never been so disappointed in conservatives because
With Stephen, and I think with Stephen, like if it were just his divorce, wouldn't have talked about it. But he is someone who is in this industry who has a pattern of basically blowing up personal relationships, and I think
So
right, but
a
that
lot
doesn't
of
make him an
people-
abuser,
a
right?
lot
You
of
could be an
people-
asshole, but that doesn't make you abusive.
I definitely
and I
don't
think
think
we've
he's
got
like physically abusive or anything like that.
Well, yeah, but you alluded that he was.
look, you like that, Calvin. I don't think it was physically abusive. Okay, emotional abuse is kind of bullshit for the most part. So, and nothing he did in that video was emotionally abusive. Like,
Like you said that he was abusing his wife in that clip. So if she has a clip that says, "Hey, he's not," I would think, "Oh wow, all the conservatives, you guys would be the first to report," except for Tim. He was the only one who did, and it's like you were willing to make video.
Yeah, well, if you're, are you asking like the ring cam footage about him?
No,
talking to
it was
his wife?
video of his wife in court, and she said,
you like how she's kind of dodging it. Like Pearl's already explained to you what she's talking about. It was a video in court where she said in court under I assume under oath saying he's not abusive and everything. So there's video apparently out there for saying that, and Lauren Chen didn't report on it.
he was not abusive. This is on camera. The nanny also testified, not
Well, I
abusive.
think my video specifically was about the nanny footage, which I do. I mean, to tell your spouse that you do not love them, I do think that's, emotionally abusive.
Well, I wouldn't say that's emotionally abusive. And
but-
because he says you do not show me love, and what he was referring to in the video, if you really listen, pay attention, and there was a clip cut out, was that she was not showing him love because she didn't listen to him. And it's like trad wives. Why wasn't the question? Why didn't you walk the dog like you were told?
Yeah.
But
If you're
Again,
really
there's
yeah,
a lot to do with the whole Steven Crowder situation that I'm just not going to comment on.
Yeah, because you realize you're wrong, and you're doing this whole trad wife niche now, and then you're realizing that like fuck, this chick's got a point on me, and I'm kind of fucked. Now she's like, oh, I got an NDA magically. Bullshit, fucking liar.
Like
Well,
publicly.
Well, but you were
It's
willing to
just
publicly make video after video after video
about what was publicly
so
available,
and
for
so
sure.
is the nanny footage. So is like so
But here's
why
the
don't
question?
go ahead.
Isn't it confirmed that I could be wrong about this, that Crowder's wife deleted a bunch of footage from
over
their
100? That's important. You would think.
Yeah.
That's
Conservatives.
so actually Justice Warrior did this whole breakdown about it. That's something that Crowder's team is alleging, but I don't know if the court itself has verified or backed it up.
And I'll tell you why I knew it was full of shit when I first heard it, because I've interviewed so many men that have gone through the same.
Again, Lauren just dodged this whole thing. I really wish Pearl put this out. I was like, why didn't you make a video of that? What's funny too is you can know she's aware of it because she never said the words, I was never aware of this. Let me see, can you send me a link and I'll do a video tomorrow. Like I didn't hear about this. I didn't see this. Can you tell me where I can find this? She never did. Like, so she knows about it, and now she's just dodging it. Like, she's doing her, her feminine shit.
Exact thing. And what women do is they poison the well for years. So they'll go around to all of his friends and drop little tidbits of abuse. Now, the common ones are emotional abuse, physical abuse. Some throw in the pedo accusation. That's devastating to men. That's a devastating one. They'll say it about their family. So they'll do this for years. Then when they come out and say he's abusive, they have all of these people ready to back them up in white knight. And then typically what you get is an out of context clip that they throw out there. And so I knew what was happening when I first saw the video.
And you can tell from her Twitter that she's obviously a crazy woman. And I personally think emotional abuse is a myth. I know you
I
said
agree with you
you
on
seem
that.
to have a different perspective. Would you think emotional abuse is a valid reason to have a divorce if you support
No.
no fault divorce?
No, but something can be unacceptable behavior though, still within a marriage.
But
Absolutely.
who are you to tell a man how to speak to his wife in his house?
Oh shit. So she's got a point. Who are you to tell a man how to speak to his wife in his house? Because again, Lauren is a Christian, so she believes in Christian ideas. She believes that men should men should lead, blah blah blah, et cetera, blah 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 blah. So you fall. It's up to a man to decide how he wants to speak to his wife. It's not up to you, and we'll get into this in a second. So,
Isn't that out of order?
I mean, you do that all the time. You call other men simps all the time.
But I don't tell them how to talk to their wife. That's your business.
And then here's Lauren trying to conflate the two. All right, calling a guy a simp is just labeling a behavior that they are expressing. They are not. She is not telling them how they should speak. She is not telling them how they should act. She is just simply labeling what their behavior is. And again, she's also not, like, as she points out, she's not telling guys how to speak. She's just saying, this is what you're doing. You're being a simp here.
Business.
That is absolutely not true.
Okay,
There are
name it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure. There are
What-
tons of times where
which
there will be
ones?
actual men in your comments saying,
So when I-
disagree,
when I-
and
when
you call them simps.
When I say simps, it typically means out of order. So typically when I say that, I'm referring to a pattern of behavior where they're putting women on a pedestal. That's typically what I'm describing.
But you'll say that about
this is, but
specific
we're
men
going to the what
talking
about.
to-
What about? You're changing this topic.
No,
Who
this
are
is
you?
the same
No, it's a different,
It's the
because
same topic.
my original question is, who are you to tell a man how to talk to his wife in his home?
Well, I
Do you
don't-
think you should be able to tell a man how to talk to his wife in his house?
I think that men should conduct themselves with biblical standards when it comes
But
to.
but answer my question. Do you think it's your place to tell men how to talk to their wives in their home? Answer yes or no.
I think it is perfectly reasonable to say that a man should hold himself to a Christian standard. in home.
Okay, so you do think it's your place, and this is what I mean when I say a lot of conservative women aren't really conservative.
That's true.
So I know that might fly under some people's head. And sorry. I'm gonna bring out my own Twitter feed. I explained this very well in my Twitter. A little self-promotion here. God, I hope I can find it. No. Oh, no, I've tweeted a lot. God fucking damn. I want to make sure, because I explained it really well when this first happened. I'd like to bring that up. A little self-promotion as well. Okay, cool. No? Cool. Wonderful. Let's share this. So there we go. So 2 points, because let's see. So I comment. So Lauren tweeted this out. It's not a feminist stance to believe husbands and fathers should act in a Christian manner towards their family. What a ridiculous notion, but sadly predictable when you remove God and responsibility from your worldview. I commented, LOL, you dodged her question and tried to compare simps to how men talk to their wives in their house. If you're trying to hold men to a Christian standard, shouldn't you rely on other Christian men to do that? Not a woman. Pearl's larger point, I think, was not men shouldn't be held to a standard, but that a woman, especially one who is not his wife, isn't going to be the one to hold him that standard. Some dumbass here commented, so then why is Pearl calling men simps? That's literally holding them to a standard. And I said 2 points. One, Pearl isn't a Christian. I don't think she's a Christian. I could be absolutely wrong, because someone bottom here commented saying Pearl claims to be Christian. I don't know. I don't think Pearl's a Christian, but whatever. Her point was that Lauren is a Christian and believes men should be held to a Christian standard, but by the, I probably should have put a period here. This is very bad writing. But by the Christian standard, Lauren is not the one that should be holding any man to any standard, as she is a woman and therefore below a man. As the hierarchy goes, God, man, woman. The husband is the leader, his wife is the follower. It is not up to a follower to set a standard. It is up to the one above to set a standard, and above and up to the ones, man, I really did run on sentences here. I'm sorry. And up to the ones of equal rank to hold one to that standard if the superior is unable to directly do it. Unable to directly. And then again, I'm saying when calling men, and then my second point was when calling men simps, Pearl isn't holding a man to her standard. She is labeling an individual due to his behavior. If Lauren had said Crowder was not being very nice and is a mean person, that would be one thing. But when she went out of her way to try to hold him to a biblical standard because they are both Christian, that's not Lauren's place according to her own worldview. And that's it. So there we go. So that's the point that that Pearl's trying to make here is you are a Christian. You are a Christian woman. You are below a man in your worldview. If you believe, that a man should be held to a Christian standard, that's fine, but that should be up to other Christian men. It should have been up to uh, uh, G. Morgan Jr., his Christian co-host and CEO of his company. It should have been up to him to ensure Crowder is being held to the Christian standard. It is not up to you, a woman, especially a woman that's not his wife, to be trying to hold him to a standard. That's Pearl's larger point. And that's what she has a problem with a lot of the conservative women is they're Christians. They believe in Christ and all that shit. They believe in biblical standard and all that stuff. But by the biblical standard, you should be shutting up and not commenting on this and trying to hold another guy to his standard. Again, if you comment and saying this is very mean, all right, blah, 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 that's one thing. You could argue that, a Christian woman can do that. That they can, say, hey, this is very mean, this is wrong. But when you step over the threshold of saying you shouldn't talk to your wife this way, this isn't the Christian standard. Now you're crossing a line to a domain that you are not supposed to be in. I wish I had my soundboard working. I haven't had it working in a while. That would have been like a Don DeMarco, or you watch Fresh and Fit, or Look, I only have one question for Lauren Southern. Did you fuck Destiny? I have nothing. I have no idea about Lauren Southern or anything. I just know there's a big old thing about like her and Destiny or some shit. And Andrew likes to ask Destiny whenever he talks to him, like whenever Destiny gets into personal text, he asks Destiny, "Did you fuck Lauren Southern?" So I was downloading a game for later. And here's the thing: they're also young women. They're young women doing this who are like in the midst of trying to raise children and all that shit and stuff, trying to tell other women how to do things, but they're doing the same thing that other women are doing. When it comes to like Andrew's wife, Rachel, the blonde, the difference here is she's done. She's basically got her kids to where they can sufficiently, take care of themselves. I assume they're both like around 40ish, so the kids should be fairly grown at this point, so they are able to sufficiently support themselves. Then you go and start doing this stuff. Then that makes some sense. But a lot of these broads are like really young chicks and trying to like oh, you should do this, 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 and all that stuff, and it's like. Yeah, but you're not done with raising your kids. Focus on raising your kids, keeping a tight household, and then you can come and comment on this stuff. I think it's the major point here. Oh shit! Fucking hell! I'm a goddamn idiot. I'm sitting here just like commenting, and I totally forgot to bring this back. All right, hold on.
Because I'm like, whose tradition, what tradition? That's very
Right. But that's what we never talk about. A lot of times when men leave, it is because there is a negative behavior that we don't talk about. Why? For example, out of order. So typically when I say that, I'm referring to a pattern of behavior where they're putting women on a pattern out of order. So typically when I their first thing is their tone.
yes, the tone policing.
Okay, I think this is roughly where I left off at, where I unshared this. So we'll get back to this. I'll let this play out because I think I made my comments already, and then we'll get back to right when I was about to, and then we'll call it a day.
That's
Super
before.
out of
But,
control.
never, but and I can
Right.
show this because there's video after video after video. Not a single conservative woman said, "Oh, hey, she didn't listen to her husband." Not one. Not one. That's crazy to me. And then we want to say, like, men go get married to conservative women. Most of them aren't really
Well,
conservative.
let's bring up the Lauren Southern story because I think this was actually a big component of Lauren's story. This article was written, I think it was Unheard. It was written by a woman who got divorced. And in the story, I think one of the issues was Lauren realizing that just being this obedient, good wife to this man wasn't working. He kept threatening to divorce her, and it seemed like nothing was working. That was her. I believe
That's her side of the story.
For sure, for sure.
And so I doubt it.
But that's the
You were just, okay, let me get this straight. Okay. So nobody asked question. You were this perfect angel. You were a perfect angel. All you did was listen to your husband, and then he threatened to divorce you all the time. Do you guys hear the story? You believe this? Come on.
But that's why I mentioned biblical patriarchy. Lauren talks about how even before they were married, he would do things like leave for days on end, or like not talk to her. There were
Why
red
did
flags.
he leave? And that's what we never talk about. A lot of times when men leave, it is because there is a negative behavior that we don't talk about. Why? For example, what if she cheated? I'm not saying she did. I don't know. What if she cheated? Would that be an acceptable reason for him to leave for 3 days?
I know,
But we don't know. We don't know
Is,
because
even if that is
but
a red
she gets an
flag, you
article.
have a
She gets an
responsibility as a
article.
woman to choose
Sure,
someone, to choose a strong leader for yourself.
We-
So if you're going into this 4 months and you're already seeing red flags, it's not trad to say, I will marry him anyway. Like, I've not
Yeah.
seen Christian dating accounts say, ignore
Was
all the
he a
red flags.
Christian? Are they a Christian couple though?
I think he is.
Is she Christian?
Catholic.
Like, what are we?
Yeah. So, but my point is that I like Lauren, but she was kind of portraying as this is why my trad relationship didn't work
Right.
out. I don't think it was a trad relationship.
Yeah,
like, look at that.
No,
It
but
just-
that's my point. Even trad women do not behave trad. That is
what
that
is-
is.
what
So
is
when
really
I
says that.
say traditional is family first above all. The family comes first before me.
But I think maybe there's a bias in the system because the women that we hear about are prominent political commentators.
Right.
They're working women.
Yes.
The traditional mothers don't go on.
Again, I'm being silent here because I fucking already said everything and realized I still had my shit on unshared, so you couldn't hear this. So I'm not saying anything. As soon as it gets to the point that I realized it, I'm gonna get off and call it a day.
This is a really good point in terms of the rise of feminism as a whole. All these news articles and these columnists, these women writing about what women should or shouldn't do,
Mhm.
are not traditional mothers. They're working women in offices,
Mhm.
so they have this natural bias. My life is good and everything I'm doing is correct. And then the women who are like, my family matters more than anything else, and I'm not concerned about what's going on outside this house. What matters inside this house is my thing. She's not writing these articles. We're not
Right,
hearing her
right.
perspective.
Well, I mean, I don't call myself traditional or conservative because I'm like, whose tradition, what tradition? That's very
Yeah,
vague, very
yeah.
nebulous. And conservative, we haven't conserved anything. There's
Yeah.
nothing that's been conserved. So I spent 20 years raising a family before I started doing this, and I kind of got into it by accident. I wrote this little book thinking maybe my dad would read it and maybe my grandkids would read it, and it just kind of blew
Now
up.
you're killing it.
So now here I am. But I have 5 children. I've homeschooled them. Like, I spent 20 years in my house, in my kitchen, chained to the stove. No, I'm just kidding. Doing all of that before I started making commentary on this sort of thing. And yes, I'm sorry, but if you have a whole career outside of your marriage, that complicates things.
Mhm.
Women don't want to talk about that,
Mhm.
about how difficult it is when you are over here trying to hustle for your career and, you have
All right, I think I left off around there. We're gonna call it a day because I gotta go and get to the gym and all that stuff. So, again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll be back here again tomorrow for part 2. I'll probably take longer tomorrow and finish everything up, and we'll call it a day then. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give me a follow. If you guys liked it. I had a few people pop in and out. Eventually, I hope get a decent amount of people that will follow me live and comment, but not that interesting at this point. Anyways, I hope you have a good day. Peace out, and pardon me, I will see you later. Peace.